Hi there. My name is Carly, and I am the creator of fearlessfemaletravels.com. I have been traveling solo for more than 20 years, and in that time, I've visited more than 70 countries. I've also lived and studied overseas and run a successful travel blog for the past 5 years. Now, I'm here with the new Fearless Female Travels podcast. I want to talk about the beautiful places I've visited and help you plan your own dream trips. I'm a dedicated slow traveler and will often spend an entire week in one small town rather than try to squeeze 5 cities into a week. If you like to travel at a more leisurely pace, then you will love my stories. And if you have less time, then you'll appreciate my suggestions for the very best attractions, activities, restaurants, and accommodation in the destinations I discuss. Other things that are really important to me when I travel include supporting local businesses, getting immersed in the local culture, and challenging myself to step out of my comfort zone. I'm not an influencer, and I'm not a videographer. I'm just a really passionate solo female traveler who wants to talk to you about the best travel experiences around the world. Everyone talks about visiting Rome, Venice, and Florence. Everyone is sharing TikToks from the Amalfi Coast and Instagram reels from the Cinque Terre. But to experience the real Italy, the one where the restaurants are full of locals, there's nary a souvenir shop in sight, and there's almost never a queue to get into the city's secret world-class museums and galleries. Well, to experience that Italy, you should visit Turin. Located in northwest Italy in the region called Piemonte, Turin, or Torino in Italian, is a breath of fresh air in a country grappling with overtourism. It's a big city with lots of things to see and do, but few tourists have caught on. In this guide, I'm going to explain exactly why Turin is worth visiting and why you should visit Turin this year or on your next trip to Italy. The first reason why you should visit Turin this year is the fact that it was the original capital city of Italy and it has the palaces to prove it. Before there was Rome, there was Turin. In the early 1800s, the movement to unify Italy was called the Risorgimento. Turin was at the heart of this movement, with great thinkers and politicians meeting in the city's cafes to organize the creation of a unified Kingdom of Italy. When the movement was successful, King Vittorio Emanuele II declared that Turin would be the capital of the new nation. Fortunately, Turin was already well equipped to serve as the Italian capital, since it had previously been an important city to the House of Savoy, a wealthy dynasty who controlled most of what is now Piedmont in northwest Italy. The Savoy family built a ring of castles, nicknamed the Crown of Delights, around the outskirts of Turin and within the city center. Exploring these royal palaces is one of the best reasons to visit Turin. They rival the opulence of Versailles or Charlottenburg, but with a fraction of the crowds. Like always, I'm going to apologize in advance for my Italian pronunciation. It's not perfect, but I always think the most important thing is that you're trying your best. So first, I want to highlight some of the beautiful palaces that are within the historic center of Turin, within easy walking distance of the Porta Nuova train station. So first, there's Palazzo Reale. This is Turin's royal palace, and it's located on Piazza Castello in the city center. Inside, you can see the opulent interiors that were commissioned by the Savoy families who called the palace home, along with the armory and the royal library. Nearby, just across the piazza, you'll find Palazzo Madama. So this Savoy palace has to be a Gemini because it has 2 faces, a pretty Baroque front facade and then a utilitarian back wall. Inside, you'll find the city's history museum and a collection of decorative arts from around the world. It's worth visiting just to take the elevator up the medieval tower for panoramic views of the historic center. A few blocks away, you've got Palazzo Carignano. So this was once the home of the princes and princesses of Carignano, but today it houses both the National Museum of the Risorgimento and the royal apartments. Finally, there's Castello de Valentino. This is inside Parco de Valentino, which is over by the Po River, and now it's the Faculty of Architecture for the Turin Polytechnic. It's worth stopping by to see the exterior when you're in the park, but to actually go inside, it requires this really convoluted booking process. I'm checking now, and the online portal says there's no availability for the rest of the year. There are also lots of beautiful castles that you can visit easily using public transportation. So, one of these is called Villa della Regina, and this is located on a hilltop just across from the city center. It's not the most beautiful palace, but it does offer really great views. The interior isn't as opulent as some of the ones in the city, but it is noteworthy for some frescoes on the interior walls. South of the city, there's Palazzina di Caccia of Stupinigi. This was the Savoy's favorite hunting palace, and it has a wow factor facade with sprawling gardens. Your visit may take you to the stables, library, central hall, and royal apartments. Just check their website first to see what's open, because at the time of my visit, they were doing some renovations. Another really famous palace is called Venaria Reale. So this was also a Savoy hunting palace, and it recently underwent a massive renovation and restoration, which makes visiting today really worthwhile. Your ticket's going to give you access to the palace interior, including the famous black and white Great Gallery, as well as the gorgeous gardens, which also have some new contemporary sculptures. Just down the road from Venaria Reale, you're going to find La Mandria Regional Park. So this is Europe's second largest enclosed park, and inside there's another palace. This one is a small red brick Savoy palace that kind of blends into its natural environment. I think I might have said last but not least before, but I almost forgot my very favorite Savoy palace, and that is Castello di Rivoli. I guess you can say I saved the best for last. So Castello di Rivoli is located in Rivoli, which is just west of Turin. To get there, you can go by metro and then bus. It takes about 1 hour. So to get to this castle, you have to walk up the hill through the medieval center of Rivoli, which is just a beautiful, charming little village. And when you reach the palace at the top of this hill, you will find one of Europe's best contemporary art museums, where these modern artworks are displayed against the striking backdrop of the royal residence. It's a can't miss attraction for anyone who loves either small town charm or world-class contemporary art. Almost all of these Savoy palaces are included in the Torino and Piedmont card, which you can buy at the Tourist Information Office in the city center, and which is an excellent value. You can really get the most of your time in Turin with this pass. I feel like you should be sold on Turin just from number 1 on my list, but let's move on to number 2. So the second reason why you're going to want to visit Turin this year is the fact that there are almost no crowds here. So cities like Rome, Florence, and Venice can see upwards of 20 million tourists every year, and in particular in 2025, Rome is expecting even more tourists because of the Jubilee. So overtourism in these cities has resulted in impacts like Venice implementing a €5 tax on day trippers and Rome fining people €400 if they sit on the Spanish Steps. You will not find this in Turin. Turin is an idyllic escape from these crushing crowds. It's far from most tourist Italy itineraries, with only about 2 million people visiting each year. This feels even more refreshing when you consider that Turin's historic center is much larger than, for example, Florence's city center, so you have 1/10 of the tourists in a much larger area. When you visit Turin, it really feels like you're in Italy, not like you're in Disneyland. A great example of this you can see over on my blog. I visited the Porta Palentina archaeological site, which is in the historic center of Turin. I was there on a weekend afternoon in the summer, and there was almost nobody else here at this amazing, spectacular old Roman gate. It was just me and like 2 or 3 other people. You will not find that in Rome or Florence or Venice. Reason number 3 why you should plan to visit Turin this year is to see the city's world-class museums. Of all of the cities in Italy, Turin has some of the most impressive and diverse museums. Unlike other cities, where most of the museums are limited to Renaissance art and regional history, Turin is home to several contemporary museums with very unique collections. Number 1, the most amazing museum in Turin is without a doubt the National Cinema Museum. I never get tired of visiting this museum, which is located inside the Mole Antonelliana Tower. Your visit starts with a tour and celebration of the history of cinema, all the way from early shadow puppetry to modern CGI. Then you move into the tower building itself, where you'll find rooms dedicated to different genres of film, a sky-high cinema, and temporary exhibits that twist all the way around the walls of the dome. At the center of all of this is a glass elevator that whisks you up through the tower to an outdoor viewing platform with panoramic views of the city. Another amazing museum in Turin is the Egyptian Museum. It's considered to be the world's second best Egyptian museum. Only Cairo is better. And it is home to more than 30,000 ancient Egyptian artifacts. These include 24 human mummies, 17 animal mummies, an 18-meter papyrus scroll, and the entire Temple of Elysia. Turin is also the automotive capital of Italy. The name Fiat actually stands for Fabbrica Italia Automobile di Torino. And near the Fiat headquarters, you'll find the National Automobile Museum, where more than 200 cars from 80 companies are on display. From classic cars to high-performance sports cars, they've got it all. And while you're there, you can walk a few blocks to Lingotto, which is the original Fiat factory, where you can still visit the rooftop racetrack. That's where you'll find the Pinacoteca Agnelli. The Agnelli family were the founders of Fiat, and later they expanded into other brands like Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. With great wealth came a great art collection, and the family has now put it on display in a purpose-built gallery on the Lingotto rooftop. Here, you can expect to see works by artists like Manet, Matisse, and Picasso. Finally, I want to recommend the Lavazza Museum. This is the perfect place for coffee addicts. You'll want to head to this museum that's just north of the city center. It's a really easy walk. There, you'll receive like a little interactive Lavazza coffee cup. And if you take it around, it will activate all these different exhibits that explore the history, manufacturing, and culture of Italian coffee. Of course, your visit will end with a coffee tasting before you exit through the very fragrant gift shop. Again, like the castles I mentioned before, nearly all of these museums are included in the Torino card, which you can get for 1, 2, or 5 days. The fourth reason you have to visit Turin is the fact that it is the perfect city to explore, rain or shine or snow. You remember the royal Savoy family who once ruled over Turin and its surroundings? Well, people that fancy certainly couldn't be expected to walk in the rain. Instead, they decreed that the main streets in the center of Turin would be lined with covered pedestrian walkways called portici, which now allow visitors to walk all the way from the Porta Nuova train station to Piazza Reale and then onward to Piazza Vittorio Veneto at the banks of the Po River. In total, Turin has about 18 kilometers of covered walkways that protect pedestrians from rain, snow, and sun. Turin is also home to Europe's longest pedestrian street, Via Giuseppe Garibaldi. This links Piazza Reale and Piazza Statuto, and it's lined with very inexpensive shops, cafes, and restaurants. Personally, it's not my favorite street. I mean, I feel like it caters more to teenagers who have a few euros in their pocket rather than people who are looking for like a really authentic Italian experience, but it definitely contributes to Turin's walkability. Finally, Turin has 3 gorgeous covered arcades, which are similar to the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, which is in front of the Duomo in Milan. Galleria San Federico is a beautiful 1930s Art Nouveau arcade that's just off Via Roma. Galleria Subalpina has an opulent interior garden with cafe tables spread amongst the greenery. And Galleria Umberto I is hidden behind Porta Palentino. The best time to visit this one is around Christmas, when the glass ceiling is illuminated with a lighting display designed by a contemporary artist. The fifth reason you should visit Turin is the fact that it is the perfect city for chocolate lovers. I always feel nostalgic when I'm at Costco in Canada around the holidays, which is right now, and I see these huge boxes of chocolates manufactured by the chocolate company called Turin. However, my nostalgia always wears off very quickly when I remember that Turin branded chocolates are actually from Mexico and they're owned by Mars, which is the company behind Mars bars. They make Skittles, Milky Way, Snickers, and Twix. But there is a reason that these international conglomerates use the name Turin in their chocolates, and that is because Turin has a rich and decadent and delicious chocolate making history. And it is among the best cities in the world for artisanal chocolatiers. In fact, Turin hosts an annual chocolate festival called Cioccolato, and for 10 days each autumn, the entire city celebrates chocolate. As well, Turin was the first city in Italy to import chocolate from abroad, thanks again to the Royal Savoys. The best way to sample lots of chocolate in Turin is probably on a guided food tour. I was invited as a guest on a Turin food tour, and we sampled, I think, 8 or 9 different chocolates, plus lots of wine and cheese. There's a link to that over on my blog. But if you don't have time for a tour, just wander around the historic center up via Roma, down via Po, and you will find all sorts of amazing chocolate shops. Turin isn't just for chocolate lovers, though. It is also for coffee lovers. I already mentioned the Lavazza Museum, but that is definitely not all. So everyone has probably sipped an espresso before, but very few people know that Italy's most iconic coffee was invented in Turin. It was in this city's famous cafe scene that hotelier Angelo Moriondo invented the espresso machine, pushing steam and water through the finely ground beans to produce that rich drink that we enjoy today. Turin's coffee history doesn't stop with the invention of espresso and the Lavazza Museum, though. One of the most iconic things to do in Turin is to enjoy a coffee at one of the city's historic cafes, many of which date back to the 1700s. I highly recommend Albiserin, which is known for its namesake drink of espresso, chocolate, and cream. Cafe Fiorio, which was very popular with aristocrats and has the interior decor to prove it. And Cafe Torino, just because of the name. The 7th reason you should consider visiting Turin this year is the fact that when you're in Turin, you can step right onto the scenes of some of your favorite movies. For many years, Turin was the cinematic heart of Italy, and local film studios produced more movies here than they did in Rome. It's no longer the biggest movie-producing city in Italy, but it's still very important for film production and for storytelling. The city has several film studios, and it's the setting for some of Italy's best-known movies and TV shows. Now, one of the most famous movies filmed in Turin was the original 1969 movie The Italian Job, starring Michael Caine. In its famous car chase scene, you will see these classic Italian cars bump down the stairs of Palazzo Madama, race underneath those covered walkways, the portici, and even swerve right through Galleria Subalpina. Other movies filmed in Turin include Profondo Rosso, or Deep Red. In this Dario Argento horror movie, the actor David Hemming strolls through the empty Piazza CLN in English, at night. And while he's doing this, he looks up and he accidentally witnesses a murder in an apartment building above the square. Some of the scenes in this movie were also filmed at Villa Scott, which is a stunning Art Nouveau mansion just across the river from the historic center. It's a private home, so you can only check that one out from outside the gate, though. There's a movie called Dopo Mezzanotte, which is After Midnight in English, and it's the story of a security guard working in the cinema museum who falls in love with a woman on the run. There's a show I watched on Netflix, actually, that's called An Astrological Guide for Broken Hearts. And this is about a young TV producer who has to overcome a broken heart, and it's set against the backdrop of Turin's pedestrian streets, wine bars, and factories that have been converted into artistic studios. There's a new show that I've got saved that I'm going to start watching as well. I believe it's called The Law According to Lydia Poet, and it's about Italy's first female lawyer who worked in Turin. Again, the best place to learn about all of these movies and TV shows is at the National Cinema Museum, so don't miss that when you're in Turin. The 8th reason that I recommend Turin is for the fantastic day trip opportunities that you can make from this city. So if you're thinking about staying in Italy for a while and you're looking for like a home base where you can settle down, I would say Turin should be at the top of your list of possibilities. So you don't just get the authentic experience in the city, but you can also easily explore the beautiful cities, towns, and landscapes all around Turin. Most of these are accessible quite easily by bus or train, but for a few, having your own car kind of helps. Some places you might want to check out include Alba, which is definitely a regional wine capital, Asti, which gives off Tuscan vibes, and Bra, which is home to the world's most important cheese festival. I had the opportunity to visit when I was living in Turin, and this cheese festival that happens every other year is amazing. Don't miss it. It's also quite easy to visit a place called Sacra di San Michele, which is a mountaintop abbey that's just at the base of the mountains outside the city center. So you don't have to drive too far to be in the mountains and to visit this really stunning mountaintop abbey. So reason number 9 why you might want to visit Turin is something that's going to attract some travelers, but potentially cause others to second guess their choice. And that is the fact that legend says that Turin is where black magic and white magic meet. Now, I'm not particularly superstitious, but even I could feel the magic in the air in Turin when I would walk through the historic city center in the evening. Now, it's said that there are 2 magical triangles on our planet. The white magic triangle, or the good magic triangle, has points in Lyon, France, Prague, Czech Republic, and Turin. And the black magic triangle, the dark magic, has points in San Francisco, London, and Turin. So being the convergence points of these 2 triangles, Turin is steeped in mysticism, legend, mythology, and folklore. Now, it's not just me who believes in this, though. In the 1980s, Joseph Ratzinger, who would later become Pope Benedict XVI, dispatched a special team of Vatican exorcists to Turin in hopes of solving 2 problems. The church believed there was a literal demonic invasion in Turin, and they were also having to battle the amateur exorcisms that were threatening the church's monopoly over local demon fighting. In 1975, an Italian writer named Giorgio Di Maria wrote a novel called The 20 Days of Turin, which was very recently translated into English. This is the story of a mysterious force that overtakes the city, causing the deaths of hundreds, and then is never spoken about again. So there's a Magic Turin tour. It happens most evenings where they take you to some of these dark magic spots. I saw it has more than 1,000 positive reviews, but I haven't done it myself. If you take the tour while you're in Turin, please let me know how it goes. And if you don't take the tour, again, still please leave a comment below letting me know if you felt the pull of the magic during your stay. It's a weird segue from dark magic to my number 10 reason why you should visit Turin, but hopefully it presents like a nice alternative for some evening activities. And the 10th reason why you should visit Turin is that truly Turin's nightlife scene has something for everyone. So I first traveled to Turin when I was in my early 20s, and my most recent visit was in my early 40s. And one of the things I love most about Turin is that its nightlife scene really does have something for everyone, no matter your age, your musical preferences, or your energy levels that particular night. Turin has one of the best aperitivo scenes in all of Italy. In my experience, only Trastevere in Rome can compare. So an aperitivo is an early evening cocktail hour where your drinks are accompanied by food, either from a buffet where you serve yourself, or it's like a little mixed plate of snacks called a tagliere. So I think my pronunciation of that was really bad, sorry. Which is brought out by the server along with your drink. Drinking, nibbling, and chatting is by far one of the most popular pastimes in Turin, and it's one I recommend every traveler try when they're in the city. So you'll find the best aperitivo spots in Piazza Vittorio Veneto and in the Quadrilatero Romano, especially along Via Sant'Agostino. But if drinking and dancing is more your style, then you'll want to head to Turin's Murazzi, which are the former boathouses along the Po River. They're located just below street level, inside the embankment's kind of arched walls, and they've now been converted into popular cocktail bars and nightclubs. They're busiest in spring and summer, when the warm nights attract students from Turin's University and Polytechnic Institute. Well, that's the end of the list. Have I convinced you that Turin is worth visiting? I really hope so. Please let me know down in the comments if you're planning a trip to Turin, if it's somewhere you'd consider visiting, or if you have any questions about my number one favorite city in Italy. And I look forward to seeing you again soon with another podcast exploring potentially some other destinations in Italy or further afield as well. Arrivederci.